Georgie and Mandy's first marriage is better for not including the Big Bang Theory universe's biggest character. Young Sheldon's spin-off series Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is already positioned to reshape the Big Bang Theory universe by following the lives of Georgie Cooper Jr. and Mandy MC Allister after the events of Young Sheldon. While fans are eager to see familiar faces from the Big Bang Theory appear, whether through cameos, references, or timeline tie-ins, there's one major character whose absence will actually make the new series stronger: Sheldon Cooper himself. That may sound counterintuitive. Sheldon is the most recognizable, culturally iconic character in the franchise. From his catchphrases and quirks to Jim Parsons' Emmy-winning performance, Sheldon is the face of the Big Bang Theory. Yet that exact fame makes him the wrong fit for a series built around Georgie and Mandy's young family, their challenges, and their personal growth. Instead of overshadowing this fresh chapter with the universe's largest gravitational pull, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is better off letting Sheldon stay in the background, mentioned, referenced, and joked about, but not physically present. Here's why. 1. Sheldon would overshadow Georgie and Mandy's story. No matter how compelling Georgie and Mandy are, Sheldon's presence immediately shifts the tone. He dominates every storyline by design. His dialogue, quirks, and comedic conflicts are crafted to be the focal point of any scene he's in. That worked perfectly in the Big Bang Theory, where Sheldon was the emotional, comedic, and thematic centerpiece. But Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage isn't about Sheldon's arc. It's about Georgie learning responsibility, Mandy navigating motherhood and independence, and the two trying to make a marriage work despite mistakes, immaturity, and differing life goals. If Sheldon walked into an episode, it stops being their show. It becomes Sheldon visits his brother, and the writers would inevitably feel pressure to lean into classic Sheldon comedy to meet audience expectations. Catchphrases, bazinga, food order jokes, germophobia bits, social awareness misunderstandings, cameos from characters tied only to him. Sheldon isn't just a character, he's a comedic engine. His presence reshapes the format. But this story needs to breathe without that gravitational pull. 2. The show needs to establish its identity outside young Sheldon. Georgie and Mandy's spinoff already risks living in the shadow of young Sheldon, especially since it continues from that series' timeline. Even with a multi-camera sitcom format, bringing it visually closer to the Big Bang Theory, it must avoid becoming Young Sheldon Season 8, the Georgie chapters. Sheldon showing up would blur those lines further. Instead of signaling that CBS is launching a truly independent show, it would read like, greater than don't worry, here's Sheldon to anchor this new series to something familiar. But anchoring isn't what the show needs, it needs freedom. Like Frasier after Cheers, Better Call Saul after Breaking Bad, or Angel after Buffy, great spin-offs succeed when they stand on their own. Georgie and Mandy deserve a chance to define a new tone, a new comedic rhythm, a new emotional center. A cast of supporting characters not tied to Sheldon lore. To thrive, the series must prioritize their lives in Texas, not Sheldon's orbit in Pasadena or his childhood legacy in Medford. 3. Sheldon's adult timeline doesn't line up with Georgie and Mandy's new beginning. One underestimated factor: the spinoff takes place much closer to Georgie's adulthood than Sheldon's Pasadena years. By the time Sheldon is the version audiences know from the Big Bang Theory, he's living across the country, fully consumed by academia, Leonard, and Caltech life. It wouldn't make sense, geographically or narratively, for Sheldon to constantly pop into Texas when he's notoriously resistant to travel. He hates major life disruptions. He has no emotional bond with Georgie in adulthood. His relationship with his family is distant until later in life. Even when Sheldon did mention Georgie in TBBT, it was often dismissively, suggesting they weren't close during this period. That rough family dynamic is part of the canon, but it's also something Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage can explore in a mature, dramatic way without needing Sheldon physically present. Their strained relationship is more interesting as phone calls, off-screen conflict, letters or passive-aggressive gifts, secondhand storytelling, not sitcom guest appearances. 4. Georgie and Mandy benefit from being the emotional core, not side characters. Young Sheldon often sidelined Georgie emotionally in favor of the coming-of-age arc centered on Sheldon. While he got his own major beats, his job, relationship with Mandy, business struggles, those storylines were still framed around how they affected the Cooper family at large. Now that Georgie is the lead, the show needs to shift perspective. Previous series focus, new series focus. How Georgie affects Sheldon, how Sheldon affected Georgie. Family reacts to Sheldon. Georgie builds his own family. Kids as supporting roles, parents as lead adults. If Sheldon enters the story too heavily, it risks flipping the dynamic again, positioning Georgie as the brother reacting to Sheldon rather than a protagonist with his own emotional universe. Mandy deserves full center stage storytelling as well. Her journey isn't tied to Sheldon at all. Giving them room to breathe lets Georgie evolve from a supporting brother to a leading man. 5. It preserves the power of Sheldon's future reconciliation arc. Young Sheldon ended with emotional devastation. The death of George Sr. fundamentally fractured the Cooper family. Sheldon, in adulthood, still carries guilt and unresolved resentment toward Georgie and George, elements referenced throughout The Big Bang Theory. If Sheldon casually appears early in the spin-off, that emotional arc gets diluted. Instead, the show should build toward a reunion, a tearful apology, adult emotional closure, not a laugh track episode where Sheldon drops by to complain about brisket portions. Saving that reconciliation for later in the series, maybe even a series finale, would give weight to decades-long emotional wounds, tie the franchise together meaningfully, create a must-watch crossover event that feels earned, a slow-burn emotional payoff greater than a cameo. 6. The show should build its own iconic characters. Sheldon-anchored TBBT. Georgie's spin-off needs new breakout personalities, co-workers, neighbors, Mandy's family, Georgie's business allies, other parents, maybe even adult Mima. If Sheldon is around, those characters get less screen time, and writers may default to familiar comedic beats rather than inventing fresh ones. The Cooper universe needs expansion, not contraction. 7. Referencing Sheldon without showing him still works perfectly. Not appearing doesn't mean Sheldon vanishes from the narrative. In fact, subtle references create continuity without overshadowing. Voicemails from Sheldon, phone calls we only hear one side of, Jim Parsons' continuing narration, gifts like scientific toys for the baby, jokes about how Sheldon is still weird. This maintains the character's presence while keeping the spotlight where it belongs. Even Penny and Leonard appeared in young Sheldon this way, through voice work and final episode cameos that felt special because they weren't overused. 8. The show is about real-world struggles, not sitcom science comedy. The Big Bang Theory was built on academic life and geek culture dynamics. Georgie and Mandy's spin-off is grounded in young adulthood, financial struggles, parenting, marriage pressures, family legacy, healing from trauma. Sheldon's humor works best in highly structured environments, universities, labs, controlled spaces. His absurdity plays off others' normalcy. Georgie and Mandy's world is the opposite, messy, emotional, improvised, chaotic. Sheldon's presence would alter the tone from grounded sitcom to quirky intellectual comedy. Keeping him out maintains the show's thematic integrity. Final thoughts. Sheldon's absence is a strength, not a loss. While hardcore fans might initially crave a big-name cameo, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage has the opportunity to become something new, a sitcom that expands the universe while standing confidently on its own narrative feet. Let Sheldon stay a legend, not a crutch. If and when he appears, it should be rare, meaningful, and emotional, not obligatory. In that way, the show honors Sheldon and